Thank you for showing up. We invited several more tech companies, and they chose to just decline to not to be here in the national conversation. So I do appreciate you getting a chance to be able to be here. Let me just outline some of the challenges that we face on this that do become obvious to all of us when we get a chance to be able to look at it. This is not picking on Meta, but it's gonna be a side-by-side with TikTok, who's not here. But this is just an example side-by-side of content delivery from a company. When there was a comparison that was done of content delivery to individuals that were 35 and younger from Instagram to TikTok. Uyghur content, it was 11-1 Instagram. So TikTok hardly delivered it. 11-1, that if someone was talking about Uyghurs, Instagram was talking about it, TikTok wouldn't. In Tibet, any conversations about Tibet, 41-1 Instagram to TikTok, TikTok just screened it out. Tiananmen, in the Tiananmen Square, 80-1 content on Tiananmen Square. This is among Americans, by the way. Hong Kong protests, 180-1. That seemed to be a conversation that was discussed on Instagram that just didn't show up on TikTok for whatever reason. Ukraine, 12-1. And this one was interesting to me. There's 50 times more pro-Palestinian content on TikTok than pro-Israel content. Now, I say that to you to say there's a sense of an outside foreign influence, in this case owned by a foreign entity, trying to be able to deliver content to the United States to affect the national conversation. That's the challenge that we have, because there's not a challenge on what Americans want to be able to talk about. The challenge is a foreign entity reaching into the United States and saying, hey, I want to try to influence you by delivering content to your box that may try to sway opinions on this. So two things I would say on this. First of those is the concern is for not just a TikTok or to a foreign entity, a Russia, an Iran, trying to be able to put bad content in, misinformation, disinformation, but it's also the feeding of the quantity of the algorithm. This is an area that Americans have got to be able to rebuild trust, that I would tell you there's a lot of suspicion, because the delivery of what content is actually coming to your feed is an area of skepticism, whether that is in a Google search or whether that's in whatever they're getting from a social media network on it. How do we actually set in front of American people enough transparency that there's a trust that it's neutral in what is delivered, yet your task is to keep people looking at the screen all day, so you're trying to feed them information they want to see more of. How do we hit that rhythm on it? Because that'll be important just for Americans, period, in our own dialogue. Anybody want to try that one?
I'll try, Senator. I think, Senator, you pinpoint a very important issue, which is algorithms, in a sense, deal with a practical problem, which is there's an almost infinite amount of content that you can show people, but of course, people have only got a limited amount of time they're scrolling on their feeds, so you have to somehow rank and funnel it. I believe the way to square the circle that Senator, you quite rightly allude to, is giving people confidence that these algorithms are working for them and not against their interests, is firstly to give people real controls. So, for instance, on our services, you can just turn the algorithm off. You can just have it chronologically delivered instead. You can click onto the three dots and you see exactly why you're seeing a post. You can say you don't want to see certain ads. You can prioritize certain content and not. I think user controls are crucial. And secondly, we need to be transparent. We need to be transparent about what are the signals that we use in the algorithms. We need to be we publish alongside our financial results every 12 weeks, for instance, full transparency reports showing how we act on content that violates our policies. We have that audited by EY, so we're not sort of marking our own homework, if I can put it like that. So I think user agency and sort of control and a maximum amount of transparency for the companies are the key ingredients here.
Okay. Mr. Walker?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, we seriously take the point about maintaining and building trust in the services. So some of the ways we do that are anchoring our results in raters who are located throughout the United States in rural and urban areas, 49 states at last count. That's the ground truth for many of our services. But beyond that, we do things like, for example, on YouTube, not just promoting the most popular videos, but the videos that users have found the most valuable. We will survey our users the day after. Did you have a good experience on the service? Did you find this a valuable use of your time? And then making sure that we are consistently and clearly and transparently enforcing our policies, which we also publish. It's a responsibility we take very seriously.
It is, and it's something that's incredibly important, and it's also consistent with law in this. If I could just make one quick comment on this as well. Mr. Smith, on a comment that you made earlier that Iran is fighting against Trump, Russia is fighting against terrorists, and we see the noise that's out there on this and the awareness of it. I do think it's important that we have this conversation to be able to make Americans well aware that not everything they see is accurate or correct, and there are things very deliberate. But one of the challenges that we have that we've got to figure out, both as a committee and both from you, is attribution. That when something shows up, how to be able to designate it, here's where that originated. Because by the time it gets shared 50 times through different places, people don't know where it originated anymore. So there's one challenge of taking off content that's Russian content, Iranian content that's deliberately meant to attack and to disturb Americans in whatever way that may be. But another one is to be able to make sure that when it gets out there, people are well aware of it. We can't tell the story of this is disinformation, misinformation, unless we get fast attribution on that. And that's something we got to be able to work out.
Amen. And you know, again, I've got critiques of all three of these companies.